Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Sammy Ketchum, and welcome back to Sammy Ketchum TCG. Tonight, we are going to be taking a look at a pre-release deck. Oh my god, yeah. This is a pre-release deck. Well, this is a pre-release promo. This is the deck we're going to be talking about tonight. And the reason why we're going to talk about this card or this deck is that this is what I've been playing. This is what I've been playing. And I played Dualblade to a League Cup today. Actually, hours ago. I was just at Locals right down the street, playing, an advanced starter deck. Well, not an advanced starter deck, an advanced pre-release deck. The little 40 card deck that you open and build a deck out with in the pre-release. I played with it in an actual tournament. And today I want to show you that this card, well, the cards in this deck from Perfect Order are actually really, really good. And they are worth consideration and are worth playing in this format. I just want to give a heads up. This may be a long video because I want to explain what this deck can do, how it can play against certain matchups, how I came about this deck and how I was building this deck. So I want to take a little time to explain, you know what I'm saying, because this isn't your normal meta deck. This isn't your normal meta deck. This is a spicy, off-the-wall, anti-meta deck. This is an off-the-wall meta deck. Well, not meta deck. Anti-meta deck. It's a one-prizer deck, which can go toe-to-toe with all the other one-prizer decks that are in the format. And also can trade really well against the EX. The EX and three-prizer decks. So that's one of the reasons why I kind of thought of this. Alright, so how I came about making this deck. When I started, playing on PGCG Live and started getting into this format, I was noticing my Mega Charizard deck and then my Mega Manectric deck, they were doing okay, but they really were not doing well in this format. Don't get me wrong, like, I built those decks to do really, really well. If they play against, EX decks, they could do well, but there's at least 3 to 4 different one-prize decks in the format, and they do not do well against them at all. Crustle, Festival-y, Alakazam, all of them do really well against my EX decks and my Mega decks. Mega Lucario can kind of play the one-prize game a little bit. Rocket's Mewtwo can even get in there. And then Dragapult is about 50-50. So, I was just like, I want to play something like a one-prize deck. But I don't want to play any of those one-prize decks that they're playing. I almost consider Alakazam, but I don't have Alakazams. I also almost considered Lucario. But Lucario is really, really bad, especially when people are playing with Clefairies and things like that. And it also doesn't do well against too many one-prizers as well. So, like, you know, so I landed on this. And when I got this kit at the pre-release, I kind of wanted to make this deck possible. And I put it to the side and I was like, maybe one day I'll make this a deck. And then I thought about it and I was just like, this could actually work. You know, I had the idea of putting the Dunsparce in here because I already had the Dunsparce in my Mega Zard deck, and I was just like, that engine is just really good in general, especially for this deck. Because the one thing about this deck is that this deck does not like hand disruption. It does not like hand disruption. So, since it doesn't like hand disruption, unfair stamp, judge, or whatever really, really messes this deck up really bad. Well, this strategy up really bad. Because you want to keep cards in your hand. But I say this is really good because it's a one-prizer, and it can really trade well against all of the decks, and it has a chance. So I built it. Four copies of Dualblade. This is the star of the show. Oh, by the way, I coined the deck Sword Art Online. That's the name of the deck, Sword Art Online. Kirito.deck. But anyway, Dualblade. This is the star of the show. Alright. This whole deck works around him. Alright. The attack is called Weaponized Swords. Which is really good. And it says that reveal any number of Honedge, Dualblade, and Aegislash from your hand, and this attack does 60 damage for each card you revealed in this way. So, for each one that I reveal, Aegislash, Dualblade, Honedge, whatever, this attack does 60 for each one I reveal. So I can ramp up the damage as long as I got the pieces in my hand. And I can keep revealing them. I can keep revealing them turn after turn because they go back into my hand. That's why I say that this hand hates hand disruption, because if you disrupt my hand, then all of my pieces for his attack go back into the deck and I have to search him out again. But in this format, there's not that much hand disruption. I mean, the only hand disruption is unfair stamp and judge. Really. So, but with that in mind, I was like, that gives Dualblade some room to play. You know? So, that's where I'm on here. Of course, to go with the Dualblade, 4 copies of the Aegislash for Dualblade's attack. Of course, you got to have the Honedge. 4 copies of the Honedges. Alright. Three copies of the Dunsparce. Probably the best drawing engine in the game right now. These cards are being played in so many decks right now. And I was already on the Dunsparce train even before this format started. I had already switched my Mega Charizard deck to the Dunsparce engine before the format rotated. And then when the format came in, it was already ready for this format. I just had to add in a few more cards. But this is one of the best engines in Pokemon right now. And there's no surprise that this is in this deck. To help me draw more cards, Also, if I get unfair stamped or judged or something, I can replenish my hand with these, get the supporters I need, get the pieces I need for Dualblade's attack back, and then I can start hitting. 3 Dunsparce. 1 copy of Genesect EX. This is the only EX Pokemon in this deck. Granted, I really didn't want to play an EX Pokemon, but this one, I had to play it. This card searches out 2 of its ability, searches out 2 of my Metal Evolutions, reveal them, and I add them to my hand. So I can search my deck for Dualblades and Aegislashes every single turn, and I could just keep adding them to my hand to give fuel for Dualblade's attack. So I can just instantly get like 120 damage worth of cards in my hand so that I can, keep the fuel in the fire and keep attacking. This is amazing. It's so amazing that it has to be included. And yes, it's a 2-prize liability, but, this card is worth it in this deck for that. 1 copy of Tatsugiri, the fish guy. All right. It's in there for its attracting customers ability. Once per turn, you may search your deck. Well, once per turn, look at the top 6 cards of your deck and get a supporter, from there and add it to your hand. All right. This card is kind of like my Meowth. All right. I don't want to play Meowth EX in this deck, so this is a close second. Not only that, is that if it stays on the field, which more than likely it will, I can keep using its ability every single turn when I can get it into the active spot. So it helps me get my supporters, and my supporters help me get my Pokemon and things for Dualblade's attack. So 1 copy of Shaymin. Shaymin is very, very good in here because of its ability. It protects non-rule box Pokemon. It protects non-EX and non-rule box Pokemon. Alright? And my whole deck, except for Genesect, is non-rule box and non-EX Pokemon. So this protects every single Pokemon in my deck on the bench. That is amazing. And it's just a little baby 1-prizer. Now, before I had Shaymin in here, I had Rapska in here. And Rapska was really good. But it is a stage 1, and it does take a little longer to get out. But I can get out Shaymin easily. That's why I opted to go with Shaymin. Three copies of Dawn. Dawn is really, really good in this deck. It could find a basic, stage 1, and a stage 2 Pokemon. And you can add them to your hand. Alright, this is very good in this deck because I can go get all of the pieces for the Aegislash line. I can get all 3 of them in 1 card. I can also find Shaymin. I can also find Shaymin with this. I can also get Shaymin with this. I can also get Genesect EX with this because Genesect EX is a basic. See where I'm going with this? Dawn is very, very good, and I've made so many great little combos just off using Dawn. Very, very important for this deck, especially with Dualblade and Aegislash. 2 copies of Hilda. Hilda is also very good in this deck. You can search for an evolution and an energy card and add them to your hand. Now, that's important because I can go get a Dualblade or an Aegislash, or I can go get the Dunsparce and an energy. You know, and in this deck, I can also get, with Hilda, I can also get special energies. You know, special energies or a regular basic energy. Just any energy, which is very, very good for this deck. 2 copies of Colress's Tenacity. Alright. This lets me get a Stadium card and an energy. Any type of energy. Special energy or basic energy. And getting a Stadium in this deck is very important because my Stadium of choice is Battle Cage, which I'll reveal later on down the line. But my Stadium of choice is Battle Cage. And I'll, you know, and against certain matchups, Battle Cage is very, very, very important to keeping my Pokemon from taking damage, especially against like Dragapult, and you know, it literally walls off Frozlast, the baby Frozlast with the ability from doing damage every single turn to my Pokemon. Battle Cage stops that. It also stops Dusknoir from popping on them on the bench. It also stops Monkey Dory from putting damage counters on my bench Pokemon. Notice how I keep saying bench Pokemon, because Battle Cage literally says bench Pokemon, not the active. But I'll get the Battle Cage later. But this helps me find the Battle Cage and an energy, which is very good. Brock Scouting, 2 copies. Alright. This lets me find 2 basic Pokemon. 2 basic Pokemon and or 1 evolution card. And I get to add them to my hand. This can also find the Genesect. This can also find the Genesect, and it can also find the Shaymin. 2 cards that can't be found with Buddy-Buddy Poffin. Okay. This can also get me an evolution. I can also get the Dunsparce. I can get a Doublade or Aegislash or what have you. But either way, also, this is also good under Badoo Lock, since I won't be able to play Buddy-Buddy Poffins early on. This will help me set up my bench and get me going when I can't use Buddy-Buddy Poffin. It's one of the main reasons why I added it in here, but it also works just to help me build my bench back up. You know, I could go get 2 Dudunsparces or what have you. Two copies of Lana's Aid. Alright. This is really, really good. Not just in this deck. I have these in my Mega Charizard deck as well. You can get up to 3 of any combination of basic energies and non-rule box Pokemon and add them to your hand, but just 3. So if I have, like, if one of my Dualblade lines gets knocked out, I could use this and get back the whole Dualblade line plus another non-rule box Pokemon or a basic energy. So I could literally get them back and set up my next attack and get them ready to go. This is really good for this deck because they go right back to my hand, where I could just reveal them and do the damage. Two copies of Boss's Orders. Four copies of Pokepad. Pokepad is very important in this deck. I can find almost every single Pokemon in this deck with Pokepad, with the exception of Genesect EX. So every Pokemon in this deck can be found with Pokepad, which is very, very good. You know, but if I'm Badoo locked or something like that, or item locked, then yeah, this isn't doing nothing. But other than that, I'm finding every single Pokemon in my deck with Pokepads. 4 copies of Buddy-Buddy Poffin. Alright. This is gonna let me find my Honedges, my Dunsparces, yeah, my Honedges, Dunsparces, my my Tatsugiri, my fish, things like that. So very, very good. You gotta have 4. And it's really good with the Dudunsparces, because after I shuffle them back into the deck with the ability, I can use more Buddy-Buddy Poffins to get 2 of them right back out and set them up for the next turn. It is just so, so good. 1 copy of Switch. You gotta have a switch in here to stop all the retreat lockers. You gotta have a switch in here. Sometimes you can switch going to the Dunsparce ability, draw 3, and keep your game rolling. Or just hold it for the retreat lock. If you're going up against a deck that you know that they have the Yveltal or retreat locker, you could kind of just hold on to it and be like, just wait until they do something. If they do it, you have the switch. You got them, right? My ACESPEC is Max Rod. Max Rod is very, very good in this deck. You know, if I get to the late game and I have lots of the Aegislash line or Doualblade pieces in my discard pile, I can get up to 5 of them and our energies all back to my hand. So, you know, I could literally just get enough in my hand, put them all back in my hand, you know, get a Doualblade powered up, and get rolling with this. Also, if they use like Xerosics or something on me and make me discard my hand, I can use this to get back 5 of the pieces into my hand, so that I can keep things going. So basically, this is an answer not only to get my pieces back, but this is also an answer to them countering me. This is also an answer to them countering me, as well as recovering my Doualblade pieces. 2 copies of Air Balloon. This is to retreat things like my Tatsugiri or my Genesect EX, things like that. You know, I mean, you need them. Four copies of Battle Cage. Battle Cage is really, really good. It stops the placements of damage counters on, you know, from being placed on my bench Pokemon, So it stops not Mega Frostlass, it stops the regular Frostlass from spreading the bench damage in between turns to my bench Pokemon. It also stops Monkey Dory, like I said before, placing damage counters from the bench Pokemon. It also stops Phantom Dive's 6 damage counters from placing them on the bench. And I've got 4 of them in this deck. I actually may take one of these out, and I may put in a Psyduck, because apparently people are still playing Dusknoir builds, and Dusknoir really kind of just harped on me today a little bit, and I kind of want to check them. I want to check them. I have enough stadiums in here, you know what I'm saying, and I have ways to find them. So I think I could cut one of these and put in a Psyduck. But you know, I had 4 in here. I was aggressively trying to stop things like Dragapult and Dusknoir and things like that. Four copies of Ignition Energy. All right. This is to power up my Dualblades very, very quickly. All right. I attach it, and since it's an evolution Pokemon, it provides 3 energies. Dualblade's attacks they are colorless. It's 2 energy, but they're colorless. So I could just use this, power him up in one go, reveal the Aegislash lines from my hand to do the damage to knock out any Pokemon I want. It's very, very good. All right, and 6 copies of Metal Energy. All right. Now, one of the reasons why I'm kind of a little heavy on the energies is that I want to be able to at least get down 2 of them, you know, during the game to kind of save me from using these all the time. Because if I use these up too many times and I run out and I don't have an attacker, I'm going to be kind of screwed for a turn where I'm not attacking. And if I'm not attacking on those turns, that gives my opponent time to come back with an answer. So I want to have at least a way to get out, you know, like going first, I attach an energy, attach one of these energies and pass. Next turn I attach again, ready to attack, and I save these from when I need them, and I can just attack, and then I can keep it going by getting a special energy every turn and winning like that. You know, if that makes any sense. All right, guys, that is the deck. I kind of want to explain the deck's matchups and you know, kind of one of the reasons why I wanted to play it. Against Dragapult, all right, especially Straight Pult. Straight Pult is very, very slow, all right. So I have a very, very, very good chance of doing well against Straight Pult. You know, getting down, like I said, getting down one of these in the early game, setting up my Pokemon, Genesect, getting out Genesect early, getting pieces in my hand early. Even if they Badoo me, I've got ways to set up my Pokemon, get out my Pokemon, and just set everything up. And then on my next turn, after going first, turn or two, I can just start attacking. I can start attacking early. Dragapult, especially Slowpoke, they are not going to be, you know, aggressively attacking you that early. So I can literally catch them off guard and start knocking out their Dracloaks and stuff, you know, or their Pokemon with the energies on them. You know, putting them at a little disadvantage because they have to keep crispening and evolving to Dracloak every turn, you know, in order to try to, you know, get things going. And I've already started attacking, and I only have to reveal 2 Pokemon to do 120 to kill off their Dreepies and Dracloaks before they become Dragapults. And then when they finally become Dragapults and start knocking me out, I can one-shot the Dragapult, especially if they haven't disrupted my hand. You know, if I get out the Dudunsparces, and if I can save my Dudunsparces, and they unfair stamp me, I can use the Dudunsparces to rebuild my hand. You know, the whole strategy of my deck is to have this big massive hand with all the Aegislash pieces in the hand, and I just keep revealing them every turn and keep doing massive amounts of damage. So, you know, also Another key card in the Dragapult matchup is the Battle Cage. That was one of the reasons why I played 4. I stick the Battle Cage out, and Dragapult's Phantom Dive will not be able to do the 6 damage counters to my bench. Alright? So that's literally the big card for against Dragapult. But of course, I played against the Dragapult, well, against 2 Dragapults today. One was a straight Pult, one was a Dragapult Dusknoir in the cup. And I played 3 against 3. And the later 2, both of them, they unfair stamped me at the perfect time. They unfair stamped me when I didn't have a Dudunsparce on the field. You know, or judged me when I didn't have a Dudunsparce on the field. So, you know, I was not able to replenish my hand back. I was not able to, you know, set up attackers and things like that. So, in those situations, I literally lost. I literally lost the game right then and there. Because I could not set back up. I could not replenish my hand and set up my attackers and get the cards for weaponized swords. I couldn't recover, but I couldn't recover from that. Therefore, I'm going to say Pult is 50-50. 50-50, especially if I do not get Battle Cage onto the field. The second build played, well, the third build played Dusknoir in the list. So I'm gonna put Psyduck in the deck. That way I could kind of match a little bit better and into Dusknoir. Because look, I'm tired. I'm tired of Dusknoir. I'm tired of the damage counters. I'm tired of the Monkey Dories. You know, I've got enough stadiums in my deck, and I have ways to find them. This is one of the only decks that can actually find the stadiums because I have the Colresses in here. You know, so yeah, but. You know, if I have my counters in my deck for Dragapult, the matchup is a little bit higher. Against things like, let's say, Starmie Frozlast. Starmie Frozlast, that's a favorable matchup for this deck. Especially if they get out the Frozlast, Mega Frozlast. Alright? Now, one of the big key things in this matchup is that Frozlast is weak to metal. So, if I attack into a Mega Frozlast with a Dualblade, all I have to do is reveal 3 of the Aegislash line, and I'm doing 180 damage. 180 damage times 2 is 36. Or 360. So I easily one-shot a Mega Frozlast EX. And I actually faced a Starmie deck at, was it Locals? I think it was Locals. It wasn't in a tournament. It might have been Locals. But I did face a Mega Starmie deck, and I was just like, yes! I was just like, because I one-shot the Mega Frozlast. And then I also, of course, can one-shot the Starmie when I have the pieces in my hand. Also, a key factor in that deck is also Battle Cage, because they also play the baby Frozlast that spreads damage. So if I get my Battle Cage out early, their Frozlast will not be able to damage my Pokemon with abilities. So Battle Cage is putting in work in that deck as well. Also, another key factor against this deck is Shaymin. Because of the Mega Starmie, one of the Mega Starmie's attacks snipes the bench. And Shaymin protects mostly all of the Pokemon in my deck except for Genesect EX. So Shaymin protects most of my bench Pokemon from being sniped. So that I'm really checking that deck. And I literally obliterated that Mega Starmie Frostlass deck today in locals. Let's see. Festival lead. I would say Festival lead, I would say, is a favorable matchup. Especially because I'll just show you. Dualblade has a resistance to grass. Dualblade has a resistance to grass. So, Festival League, they're not able, especially if they don't have the stadium, they're not able to two-shot my Pokemon as easily. I mean, not two-shot. What I'm saying is they're not able to knock out my Pokemon as easily, you know, because I have a resistance to them, minus 30. So, you know, so there's that. I mean, even the Genesect EX has the same resistance. So, also, I can basically trade even with, you know, with the deck, because one prizer versus one prizer, especially if I get the first knockout, you know, that along with the resistance and me bumping their stadiums and them not finding their stadiums or whatever, I could clean up nicely against Festival Lead. And I literally almost beat a Festival Lead today in the cup. But we both tied. I was at one prize, you know, turn 3. I literally had him. But it was neck and neck, back and forth a little bit. But if I got the first prize, which I did, I was able to keep pace with the Festival Lead deck. Alakazam. I was also able to keep pace with Alakazam, you know, because I'm a one prizer deck as well. You know, the only thing I would say about Alakazam is that if they go on their second or third turn, Rare Candy into Alakazam, then that could be a problem, especially if I don't get the first knockout. You know, against a one prize deck, it's a race against if you get the first knockout. You know, also the Alakazam deck that I played today had a Fez in their deck, and I was able to boss up their Fez and knock it out and take 2 prizes, and I was able to still keep up with the prize race. Also, that their Alakazam, they prized 2 of their Abras, so they didn't have as many Abras, you know, in play in the beginning. So I was able to kind of get that advantage, and I was aggressively trying to take out their Alakazam line, you know. But it did come down to the wire a little bit, but I was able to win against an Alakazam. So Alakazam is, you know, definitely winnable. I would say pretty much favored to even on the single prize decks like that. Against Crustle, I pretty much win, you know, because like their whole thing is walling off EX Pokemon, and I'm not an EX Pokemon. I also Crustle is also a grass Pokemon. I also have resistance to grass. So, I honestly don't think that'll matter. Also, another thing about Crustle is if I knock out a Crustle, it takes them 3 turns to power up a Crustle. Whereas, it's not even going to take me that long to power up a Dualblade. With the special energy, I can just attach the special energy and attack. So, I can get going quicker than the Crustle, and I can just take it out. If they play any of the EX Pokemon that I saw, you know, at Prague or whatever, if they play the Kangaskhan or the Cornerstone, I mean, I just easily have an advantage and knock those out, you know, easily. Very, very favored in the Crustle. What other deck can I talk about? Zoroark EX. Again, very favored into Zoroark EX. Really, their only attacker is Zoroark EX. And they have to keep getting out Zoroarks, not just to draw, but to attack with. You know, if they set up their Manatan, I've, you know, got Shaymin, you know, to put on the bench to block them from, you know, hitting my Pokemon with the Manatan's attack. Shaymin kind of stops that a little bit. Shaymin does stop that. I've got the Battle Case to stop Monkey Dory if they try to power Monkey Dory from doing things to my bench. I'm not leaving damage on their board because I'm one-shotting everything. I'm one-shotting the Zoroarks. So, very favored into Zoroark EX. Against Raging Bolt, Slot Box decks, all of those decks, I'm favored into all of those decks. Because, again, I'm a one-prizer deck. You know, I can just sit there, build up my hand, and just build up my hand, attach special energy, and then just wail on them. You know, the only downside I would say is if I brick like in my opening hand, or if I somehow start with Genesect EX and they get a fast start, then, and if they knock on my Genesect EX early, I'm going to be kind of in trouble. But if I start off decently, which most games I am, those are favorable matchups. All the slot boxes, all the Raging Bolts, all the slot box, Raging Bolt, Pterodax, I have a good matchup into. Very, very good matchup into. You know, but I did face off against the Raging Bolt deck today. But I had a very, very bad start against them. I had to start with a Genesect EX. And on their second or third turn, they were able to one-shot the Genesect. And I wasn't able to recover from that position. And that really hurt me bad. But normally, under normal circumstances, I basically just I plow right through those decks. Rocket's Mewtwo. Rocket's Mewtwo can be challenging if they power up the Spite-Ups. But if they power up the Spite-Ups, I have resistance to the Spite-Ups. So that's one thing. I have resistance to the Spite-Ups. You know, and if they drop down to Mewtwo, I can one-shot the Mewtwo. I can boss it up, one-shot it. You know, or if they power it up, I can one-shot it. Which is very, very good. So I would say that is even the favorable against the Rocket's Mewtwo, especially favorable if they put down the Mewtwo's. Let's see. What other deck haven't I talked about in this format? Oh, I talked about Dragapult Dusknoir, Dragapult Blaziken. I would kind of say that it's in the realm of straight pult or whatever, you know. So it's in the same position as all the other pults, you know, 50-50 to favorable depending on if I can get my battle cages and stuff out. So what other deck have I not talked about? What other deck have I not talked about? I'm trying to think. I talked about Zord. Talked about all the Snotbox decks. What other deck? Oh, Ogerpon Arboliva. The Ogerpon Arboliva decks. Now, I would say that is favorable. Because the reason I'm favorable is because of Shaymin. I can easily get out Shaymin, and that'll block the Arboliva early. That'll block the Arboliva. Alright. And then if they bring out any other EX Pokemon, I could basically one-shot them. Resistance really won't matter because they can just one-shot me back, even with or without resistance. But all of the EX Pokemon will just go down, and I'll just 2-2-2 all of the EX Pokemon. And Shaymin will just protect my bench from the Arboliva. So, that's favorable. So Arboliva, I think that's about it. Cover Festivalita, Cover Crustone. So it has decent matchups across the board. But if I brick in some games, then of course, I'm going to lose because I bricked, or if I start the wrong Pokemon. But I think I covered everything about, matchup wise. I really, really like how strong this deck is, even though it's a pre-release deck. And I'm having lots and lots of fun with it, especially in this format, which is pretty toxic. With all the one prize decks, the Zoras, the many, many different Dragapult decks going around. I put Dragapult to Dunsparce in with all the other Dragapults as well. But that's going to be it. That is going to be it. I will do a picture of the layout and put it in the description. All right, in the video, if you guys are interested. Probably not, because this really isn't a meta deck and it's not on anybody's radar. But I will be putting a picture there of the deck list. Also in the description, I will be putting a link of my team sponsor, Team NTR Nightly Tournament Run. All right. And their sponsor is Mattyfield. If you like foil playmats, all right, go check out Mattyfield's website, and you can get a custom premium foil playmat that fits your playstyle. They do some Pokemon themed playmats. So they do have some, and I'm sure, like, if you request a certain design or something, I'm probably sure they probably could, fit your request. Especially if you're paying a premium price for, a premium foil mat. So check out Maddie Field. That link will also be in the description along with the deck layout if you are interested. Other than that, that is the deck, ladies and gentlemen. Whew. Make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe. And until next time, make sure you take care of yourself and each other. Thank you.